Hello, everybody, and welcome to Late Night News for February 2024. We're back in 2024, and you're and duh. Now I know why. Okay, yeah. Never mind. Uh, I am Joe Compton, and joining me today.
I'm Vanessa Junta, as everybody watching mostly already knows. We have some
So far,
technical difficulties. We're having some technical difficulties earlier. Like that's why we just kind of were like, "What's happening now?"
Hi, Anita. Nice to see you. All right, yeah. So we've got a jam-packed show for you. We've got a lot of news to cover, and we're going to start with some breaking news. Everybody, breaking news here to open our show, and our top story will be this tonight, and it is that key board members on the WorldCon board have of the WorldCon board of the HUGO nomination committee have resigned, and a couple have been censured. Two leaders of WorldCon Intellectual Property, the nonprofit that holds the service marks of the World Science Fiction Society, have reportedly stepped down from their posts following accusations of censorship in the voting process for the 2023 HUGO Awards. In a January 30th statement, which you can see right here. This is the official press release. I know it's a little difficult to read, but I'm going to give you the gist of it anyway. In the statement, which uh, is here, WIP officials announced that Director Dave McCarty and Board Chair Kevin Stanley have both resigned from their positions. McCarty was also censured for public comments that have led to harm of the goodwill and value of the marks and the actions of the Hugo Administration Committee and the Chengdu WorldCon, which was where it was in last year. It was in China last year, and that he presided over. Stan Lee was also reprimanded for public comments that mistakenly led people to believe that we were not servicing our marks. The resignations and disciplinary actions come after the nomination data for the 2023 awards was made public on January 20th. And it was revealed that certain authors and books, this is so difficult when I'm here by myself doing this, uh, uh, and because I got all fancy today, that's my fault. Certain books like R.F. Kuang's Babel uh, were part of that. And she mentions that the censorship evident in the nomination data, see, and I missed it. The censorship evident in the nomination data is not only embarrassing for all involved parties, but renders the entire process and organization illegitimate. And then that was part of her Blue Sky post that she wrote about the snub for the Hugo Award. Also deemed ineligible were Canadian authors Zara J. Zhao, whose book Iron Widow, which is right here, which beautiful cover. Her book Iron Widow about China's only female emperor, and writer Paul Weimer, who expressed concerns in 2021 over holding WorldCon in Chengdu. In response to the outcry, McCarty took to Facebook on January 20th and attempted, sometimes curtly, to address hundreds of comments from angered authors, including Neil Gaiman and Silvia Moreno Garcia, who's an episode of Netflix TV series The Sandman, based on Gaiman's comic book series, was also declared ineligible. As the WIP So funny because it's words in progress for us WIPs, the same initials. So it's throwing me off a little bit. At the WIP statement notes, each year's World Science Fiction Convention, Worldcon, is run by a separate organization that administers the Hugo Awards for that year. The leaders of the 2024 Glasgow Worldcon, which will be held August 8th through the 12th in Scotland's largest city, are already distancing themselves from the Shangdu Committee. On January 27th, the Glasgow group issued a statement pledging total transparency in the Hugo voting process, assuring fans that it will publish the reasons for any disqualifications of potential finalists and any withdrawals of potential finalists from the ballot. On January 27th, Dave McCarty issued a public apology. This is that from his Facebook page, uh, where you can see here, and it reads, "For those playing along at home, get your bingo cards out because it's time to mark the hard to fill in space. I'm apologizing. Last week, I posted on my page that the Hugo statistics had gone up, thinking that I was talking to just a few folks that had popped in before and asked me about them. I didn't really think at the time, or I didn't really think at any time that it would be seen by pretty much everyone that wasn't me as speaking for the convention and the Hugo team. Clearly, I think we all agree I was wrong. The responses put me in old habits and I got defensive. Most of my responses were inappropriate, unprofessional, condescending, and a number were clearly insulting. I made things worse. I apologize to the finalists, I apologize to the Worldcon committee, and I apologize to the Hugo Awards committee. My actions there caused pain and damage to people and communities that I love. Worldcon has been a core part of my life for more than 20 years, and I have to live with the knowledge of the damage I've caused here by acting that way. I'm going to turn off commenting on both this post and the past posts about stats. The statement that the administration team had previously made about ineligibility decisions is the only one I can share. Any further questions, you can contact the Hugo Awards directly. Sincerely, Dave." In addition to the resignations and censures, In addition to the resignation and censors, WIP this week also announced that Don Eastlake has been elected as the new WIP board chair. In addition, WIP announced two others, Chen Shi and Ben Yalo, were also censured for actions of the Hugo Administration Committee of the Chengdu Worldcon that they presided over. The statement adds that there may be other actions taken or to be taken that are not in this announcement. Yalo, who co-chaired the Chengdu Worldcon with Xi, is no longer listed on the 2024 Glasgow Worldcon committee and staff page. The Hugo Award is an annual literary award for the best science fiction or fantasy works and achievements of previous years, given at this World Science Fiction Convention, or what is known as Worldcon, and chosen by its members. The Hugo is widely considered the premier award in science fiction. The award is administered by the World Science Fiction Society and is named after Hugo Gershmack, who is the founder of the pioneering science fiction magazine Amazing Stories. Hugos were first given in 1953 at the 11th Annual World Science Fiction Convention and have been awarded every year since 1955. The Hugo Awards are no strangers to controversy, however. In recent years, the annual celebrations have come under fire for questionable sponsorships, like defense contractor Raytheon Technologies, and an anti-diverse movement that interfered with the nominations. Some of us might remember the Sad Puppies. I not putting up a graphic for the Sad Puppies. You just have to deal with that. And a string of issues, misgendering a finalist for one, that made it necessary to revamp the entire World Science Fiction Committee, the body that administers each year's Hugos in 2018. The WIP takes very seriously the recent complaints about the 2023 Hugo Award process, the statement reads, and complaints about the comments made by persons holding official positions in WIP. This year's Hugo Award winners will be announced and awarded at a ceremony at Worldcon uh, during the time in Glasgow, Scotland. So there you have it. there's the interesting fallout from this literally happened like 2 days before we put out our agenda, which is par for the course here at Late Night News. But
Yes.
yes,
Generally speaking, when we have our agenda, within 24 hours, when we've nailed down our agenda and what stories we're going to do, within 24 hours, something happens, which is, I mean, in this case, not great. But I mean, it is great because they people were held accountable, and
yeah,
that is great. But yeah, so this makes me think a lot. Oh, people,
yeah.
this makes me think a lot about, and this is very specific in the science fiction fantasy realm, where there's a big convention that moves from place to place, which is not necessarily uncommon, but the organization team is entirely different at each space. And I really feel like that is the crux of the problem, because there's not enough control, central control to around, I mean, to protect the brand and to protect the event, because
Mm,
we've seen this at World Fantasy. We've seen stuff like this at all of the moving cons, and that's not to say that cons that don't move don't have issues, because they do. But like, okay, so great, so these two guys who are on this particular con committee are off, but it's not going to be there again, so who cares, for the future. I mean, it's important that they were held accountable, but for the future it doesn't matter. And so, like, it's going to move again, and then it's going to move again, and it's going to be all different teams. I feel like in order to bring some continuity and some control to stuff like that, there should be a centralized team that is part of the WorldCon group, not just to take care of the branding and all that, but to actually create continuity among all of the cons so that they can hold themselves to a particular level.
mm.
So,
I and I do wonder too how much how unimpressive or maybe lack thereof understanding of what is required of a committee member that World Intellectual Property is providing these folks. The guidelines they're providing obviously are a bit vague in the idea of
lacking.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. They're a bit vague and not very well thought out. Maybe that's why things keep happening like this. And like I was mentioning, it is not the first time that something like this has happened to this organization. So, and yes, moving it around creates challenges, right?
Yeah, and I really feel like that, like, they would have fewer issues if they didn't do that. Not necessarily just them specifically, but those bigger cons that do that. And as someone who is intimately connected with convention production, I also recognize that, we're all human and we're going to make mistakes, and that's just going to happen. It's just a matter of time. There are going to be mistakes made, and I'm going to give them props for at least stepping up and say, okay, this was wrong. These are the things we're doing to correct this. You know what I mean? So, I mean, they get props for that, because, when the whole sad puppies thing happened, there wasn't a whole lot of accountability like that. There wasn't. So, I mean, that was a whole different thing, but still, there was nothing really.
And just to put a bow on it, wrap it up a little bit. The idea that now they're saying we're going to share complete transparency. That's the key. I think that's the element that we go through every single time with all these articles about Amazon and all the big companies. And we're going to be doing one a little bit later, where a company. Well, I'm going to be talking a little bit about something that has happened where a big company has kind of squashed the little company's dreams, and because their transparency is yuck. And so I think that is the key. If you have transparency and you're very open and you deal with this right away, I think WorldCon did everything right in that aspect of it. I mean, obviously, I think they need to look at their internal process, and maybe for the next one, then 2025, 2026, you have something in play that has a little bit better guidelines, and maybe that will
Yes.
solve the problem. We have a
Yes.
bunch of comments here. Didn't think the scandal would have consequences. Yeah, somehow they were suddenly not eligible with no explanation. In translation, Dave acted like a snarky jerk and got called out for it. And Vanessa agreed. Uh, and then YouTuber Daniel Green has did a great in-depth look at what happened in the Hugo scandal. So everybody go check that out. That sounds pretty good. I mean, there's not a whole lot of depth you can muster from this. Hey, look, people messed up, and at least the guy semi apologized. I mean,
I mean, like I didn't like how he started the apology, because he started the apology like there was so much ego in the
yeah,
apology. Like he's starting it like, y'all get out your calendars because I'm
yeah,
going to apologize, which just translates to me as I'm an asshole and I don't ever apologize for anything. So look, pay attention. I'm doing the right thing.
yeah,
It's just like, okay, I don't like you. Like, I
yeah.
don't even know you. And even if I didn't know anything about what happened, if I read that apology, I'd be like, you're a dick. So, you know what
I
I mean?
got this, looking at his other Facebook posts and beyond that, I got that sense a little bit. It was like they kind of like crawled up your skin a little bit. It's like, all right,
I don't like people like that. But, I just want to make a quick comment about what you were saying about transparency. And I think what organizations don't understand is that you only win when you're transparent, because
mm,
that gives people the opportunity to forgive you. You know, if you're just like I think about Amazon, who like that is not, they're opaque with everything. They are not transparent. There's literally nothing Amazon does that has
yeah,
any transparency to it, which leaves people angry because
yeah,
it's like, I don't understand why you're doing this or you're doing that. And I don't understand why you're punishing me for X or Y or what, I don't understand that. Or I don't understand why you're doing these awful things. And even and if there's some understanding behind it, like when a company is transparent and they say, look, this happened, like Worldcon, look, we screwed up, this is a big mess, like it gives people an opportunity to be like, okay, yeah, well, I've made big messes before too,
yeah.
so I understand. It gives people the opportunity to forgive them. So this pushing back against being transparent is just cutting off their nose to spite their face. Yeah. Who gets snarky at Neil? Come on.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and Neil's probably like, wait, who are you?
Right, yeah.
I only
Wait,
know you because you're a dick.
right.
So who are you
I got out of bed for what?
now? Right. So yeah, so that was a ride, let me tell you. But good on Worldcon
Yeah,
for at least stepping up
and we'll
and
see how
making
this we'll see
changes.
how this goes down the road. So,
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
right. So everybody buckle up and get ready because AI's a coming again. We got more stories about AI. Vanessa's got a
Yes,
break
but these
for you.
these are going to be better stories, though, hopefully. AI is definitely being super disruptive, but there are a few bright lights in our future. First, we're going to talk about Fairly Trained. This is a new nonprofit looking to certify fair training data use in generative AI. One of the biggest issues in relation to AI is the use of copyrighted materials on which the AI learns. Most, and certainly the largest AI companies, have not sought permission from copyright holders at all to use their material in teaching their generative AI programs. So, Fairly Trained has created a program to allow AI companies to certify that the information its AIs are trained on has been accessed legally and that copyright holders have given consent for that training. Now, we have a Quote, there is a divide emerging between two types of generative AI companies, those who get the consent of training data providers and those who don't, claiming they have no legal obligation to do so. We believe there are many consumers and companies who would prefer to work with generative AI companies who train on data provided with the consent of its creators, a blog post on the group's website states. Fairly Trained exists to make it clear which companies take a more consent-based approach to training and are therefore treating creators more fairly. In addition to like the way that they explain it is that their first certification is the licensed model certification, which can be awarded to any generative AI model that doesn't use any copyrighted work without a license. The licenses involved can be various types. They can be custom licenses, open licenses, but this certification will not be awarded to models that rely on the fair use copyright exception or similar, which is an indicator that rights holders haven't given consent for their work to be used in training. In this way, they hope it will be a helpful marker of companies who are taking a fairer approach to training data acquisition. And Fairly Trained is also supported by a number of organizations, including the Association of American Publishers, the Universal Music Group, the Association of Independent Music Publishers, Music Industry Player Concord, and sound effects rights group Pro Sound Effects. At launch, as you can see on the screen, there are 9 AI companies that have been certified already: Beethoven AI, Boomi, Bria AI, Endel, LifeScore, Rightsify, Psalms.ai, Soundful, and Toonie. Now, these are all music, sound, and visual AIs, but it'll be interesting to see if any of the text-based AIs sign on. And I really think this is an excellent an excellent start, but I'm really not convinced. I'm very doubtful that the text-based AIs, particularly the big ones like ChatGPT, are ever going to sign on to anything like this, right?
Yeah, they're gonna be like, we have our own internal process, we do our own copywriting, things of like that nature, because they're just that's just how the nature of their business is gonna be. But um, I think it was smart to start with music though, because music is the most copywritten, of egregious violator of copyrights that there is out there. So, and I think it might be because it's sound based and waves based, the easiest thing to teach an AI, and so I think that is part of the reason why. And also, I would imagine they started with sound. Maybe it was just that these companies all gravitated toward what they were doing and brought it on board. Rosie says here that Beat Oven looks like it has royalty free music. Might have to check that out for the stream. Yeah. Um, and
And there's also, it's not just music though. There are a couple visual,
yeah,
imaging AIs that have signed on as well, which I think bodes pretty well. Like I would feel much more comfortable using that, using one of those to do. I certainly wouldn't replace an artist.
yeah.
I wouldn't do it for a book cover or something like that. But I absolutely would do it for creating graphics for, blog posts or, social media stuff to kind of cut the time of doing that. I would do that for sure, because that's something I would do anyway. I wouldn't source that out to a graphic artist or whatever. Anything I would source out to a graphic artist, I'm still going to source out to a human graphic artist. But I would use this is the only way I would ever use an AI.
But in that regard too, if they have the certification done, then you'll feel a little bit more comfortable with them too, if they're utilizing AI as a tool to help them create their art, which is something that we've all talked about and encompassed. And it's going to happen. We're all going to be a part of that community, whether we like it or not. It is just, it is how we utilize it and how we present it that is going to change how, the public opinion about around it. Reminds me a lot of Certified Green. I don't know if people are aware of Certified Green, but quite a few years ago during the Silicon Valley boom, a lot of tech companies were changing their footprints, and so in order to show that they were somebody who cared about the environment and were caring about climate change, they were there was a company that went out there and checked their footprint, measured their carbon, measured what they do and how they do it, and then they certified them as green. And most companies uh, who got certified green, that was something that a lot of people in this area where I live look for. They look for that logo. So I think that this is a smart business. I think it's a really needed business, and I think that Fairly Trained has a good handle on it. I think they know what they're looking for. I do think that it would be interesting to see how fast they can keep up with the tech and the AI, because that might be something that might change things. But that'll be interesting. And Nita goes, I wonder if no, not a chance in hell.
Well, but all it's going to take is one big company to sign
Yeah,
on. It's only going to take one, because once
sure.
that company signs on, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the other ones.
Yep.
Because there are those of us like myself. I know there are a lot of people out there who would love to use AI. Like, I really would love to use AI. I would love to incorporate it into my workflow and stuff like that. But current AI, particularly text-based AIs, they are unethical on their in their foundation. Their foundation is unethical.
Yeah.
So even if like, I don't want it to write my books for me, but I would love to, like, using it for brainstorming, or using it for, like, suggestions for changing a scene
Or
or something like that. I would love to do that, but I
yeah.
won't. But if one of the bigger companies signs on to Fairly Trained, I might be much more willing to go with them rather than the others. So it's only going to take one company. Will it be Adobe? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, if a Shutterstock or a Pixabay joined this
Mhm.
union, I think
Yep.
that would certainly turn some heads for people, and Adobe then would have no choice but then to kind of go, you know what, we want to keep that's our major competition. We want to keep up with them. So I think that'd be interesting. I also think, like, if a Final Draft was to jump aboard and do this, that would be a big one for the entertainment industry, because then right now everybody's forced to use Final Draft anyway. It might as well be certified if people are using AI to create scripts and use it for formatting and that such. I wanted to mention with this story too, before we jump into the next thing, that I think this is a really great opportunity for small independent artists right now who want to utilize tools to help their art and help them manufacture their art faster with through AI, to go get certified while this is in an infant stage right now. I'm guessing it's not that expensive. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm guessing right now would be the cheapest it would be, because once big companies jump on board this, you know, the price is going to skyrocket.
Well, the good thing is it's a nonprofit. So it's not a company that is there to make money. So, like, that is one of the best things about it, I think. Anita makes a good point in saying that Adobe is currently making a pretty big deal about fair use with their AI training. I mean, whether they're being honest or not, like, I'm always like really wary of trusting any corporation statement that says that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
If I can see that they're doing the right thing, great. Then I feel much more loyal to that company.
And
But if
at
they're
the end
just
of the
saying they're
show,
doing the right thing, and again, the transparency thing, right? It's the transparency thing. If I can't see that they're doing the right thing and I have to take their word for it,
I'm actually going to cite an example of a company that did exactly that. Said that they were looking out for the little guy, and they just completely shit on him. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. And Rosie says Adobe moves like molasses. True, although some artists have stated they are being paid. So
that is excellent. Good. I'm very glad to hear that. I'm very
yeah,
glad to hear
I
that. And
would
I hope
definitely
that
check it out.
trend. Yeah, we'll definitely be checking in on. I mean, AI is probably going to be some sort of story every month for the next 2 years. We're gonna get so sick of AI, but I'm very excited about the next one. Can we go into the next one,
Yeah,
because I'm
please.
so excited about it? I mean, it doesn't affect me at all because it's strictly for visual artists, but it makes me so happy. All right. So in another attempt to rein in AI companies' illegal use of copyrighted material, a team at the University of Chicago has come out with a program called Nightshade. And like its deadly namesake, Nightshade's purpose is to poison AI generated images that are created from art scraped without the artist's consent. Now, before Nightshade came out back in March of 2023, the University of Chicago launched a different anti-theft tool to block AI called Glaze, but that was specifically designed to stop AI from mimicking an artist's style. Now, with the addition of Nightshade, artists have multifaceted lines of defense against unethical AI scraping. To quote, Nightshade works similarly as Glaze, but instead of a defense against style mimicry, it is designed as an offensive tool to distort feature representations inside generative AI image models. Like Glaze, Nightshade is computed. Okay, this is all gobbledygook, so I'm just going to skip that part. But the explanation is, while human eyes see a shaded image that is largely unchanged from the original, the AI model sees a dramatically different composition in the image. For example, human eyes might see a shaded image of a cow in a green field largely unchanged, but an AI model might see a large leather purse lying in the grass. Trained on a sufficient number of shaded images that include a cow, a model will become increasingly convinced cows have nice brown leathery handles and smooth side pockets with a zipper and perhaps a lovely branded a lovely brand logo. Wow, my mouth is not working today. So anyway, as AI scrapes these night-shaded images, their understanding of what, say, a cow is gets warped. Over time, what comes out of the AI generator is nothing like what the prompt asked for. Interest in Nightshade vastly outpaced the expectations, with 250,000 downloads in the 5 days after release, which means AI is going to be very confused by cows very, very soon. Researchers have advocated that artists use Glaze first, then Nightshade, to both protect their style while also disrupting AI model training. And they've been heartened to see that artists are actually doing just that, even though it's still a little cumbersome to use the two separate programs, but they are working on a combined program in the future. And I feel like these are both great tools for artists to combat the entitlement displayed by AI companies in stealing work to train their models on.
It's
I
also
love
a
this.
great it's also a great discouraging tactic for anybody who thought AI was gonna be better, right? And so you put up like, if you see what they're doing here, look at the dragon one, for example. I mean, it's just like, if you're gonna get that with your AI, if you put it in dragon, I don't know that you'd be so keen on wanting to get that picture. So,
That's right. Exactly. And I mean, it's really going to frustrate all those people who are, wanting to do 20,000 books or 20,000 images. Hey, JD, and, toss them out there or make, 5,000 book covers and put them up for sale as pre-made book covers. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's like, it's really going to mess them up, which makes me so happy.
Eh, what it also does is and JD says AI better. Ha 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 ha. Ha. What it also does is it puts a branding of coding in there where it's going to be recognized as an AI almost instantaneously, right? So by putting the poison in it, it determines whether it's an AI right away or not, and that helps anybody like a search engine like for Amazon. Like I can imagine Amazon actually using this program and being very effective with it. They'll never tell Nightshade that they're using this program, but
Well,
but
yeah, they may not if the University of Chicago kind of allows the back end to be available to companies like Amazon or something like that, so that they can see the bits that are like create the shade, then they'll absolutely be able to track that. Like they'll be able to identify that. I think. I mean, I'm not I'm not a nightshadeologist, so I
Yeah.
don't know how all of that works on the back end,
From
but it
what I
makes
read, though,
sense.
that's exactly how it works. So I think that's going to be the case, and so I think that's a very effective tool, and I think it's going to be very nice. And this is just a cool
That is a cool graphic. I like it.
logo.
I like it.
Yeah, so yeah, I think Nightshade's worth it, everybody. So if you were wondering if you have an AI image, I don't know how much it costs. I don't know if it's even available to be marketed yet. So, but
Yeah, I don't think there's
I think
access
they're just
to that.
testing
I
it.
think right now, I think the only access is if artists want to use it to shade their uh the images that they put up on the web. I think that is where we are with that. So
So we're about to go into a story that Vanessa and I have shelved like 3 times, and the reason we shelved it is because there was really nothing happening with it. And this week, actually, something happened. This month, something happened. So, uh, and it's real exciting. So for the people who don't know, Texas passed a law. The governor there passed a law called HB 900, which was a law to kind of put ratings on books to kind of, you know,
it was
make
an
sure.
it was a way to ban them without
Mhm.
outright banning them.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and so this week the Fifth District Court of the U.S. Court of Appeals on January 17th upheld a lower court decision to block key provisions of HB 900, Texas's controversial book rating law, finding that the law likely violated First Amendment protections against compelled speech. In an unequivocal 30-page decision, which we will not get into here, a 3-judge panel of the Fifth Court, viewed by many as the most conservative court in the nation, key phrasing there, easily dispatched with the state's key legal arguments. Specifically, the court rejected the state's argument that the mandatory book ratings are government speech and thus immune from the First Amendment claims, and dismissed claims that the book ratings would merely be informational and uncontroversial, like nutrition labels or movie ratings or warning labels on cigarettes. Uh, they basically stated here that, wrong one. Oh, that's actually not the one I want either. Hang on. Uh, so basically,
It's
they
hard to
said
be your own producer
it is
and
right. Yeah.
on air
Uh,
talent.
they basically said we're not persuaded by the state's its characterizations of ratings as form of consistency review. That is purely ministerial task instead of an expression of the vendor's opinion on the subject matter being rated. The court held, noting that the law requires vendors to undertake a fact intensive process of weighing and balancing factors to rate the library material, which it recognized as a highly discretionary undertaking. In sum, the district court was correct that the government speech doctrine does not apply. The ratings are the vendor's speech, not the government's. The court held the ratings HB 900 requires are neither factual or nor uncontroversial. The statute requires vendors to undertake contextual analysis, weighing in and balancing many factors to determine a rating for each book. Balancing a myriad of factors that depend on a community's standards is anything but mere disclosure of factual information, and that has already been proven controversial. Furthermore, the court also accepted arguments made by the plaintiff booksellers that the law would cause them irreparable economic harm. Even the bookstores, Even if the bookstores could pass along some costs to their customers, plaintiff bookseller Blue Willow has alleged here that the compliance costs alone threatens the very existence of its business. Recovering costs wouldn't resurrect Blue Willow if compliance costs put them out of business. That's what the court observed. With the decision, the court reprimanded the case to the district court with instructions to dismiss the 2 defendants from the case, who are Martha Wong, chair of the Texas State Library and Archives Commission, and Kevin Ellis, the chair of the Texas Board of Education. This affirmed an already made decision on August 31st to block the Texas Education Agency Commissioner Mike Morath from enforcing the book rating provision of the law, and crucially denying the state's bid to stay Albright's preliminary injunction while the appeal proceeds. So, another section of the law that mandated the creation of statewide library collection standards was not part of the appeal and remains in effect. So, little victories here. Um, viewed mostly viewed by many as most high profile of a wave of book banning laws at the state level. The law was signed by Texas Governor Greg Abbott on June 12th. The controversial law requires book vendors to review and rate books sold to Texas schools, both new books and books previously sold, for sexual content. Under the law, the books rated sexually explicit, books with material deemed patently offensive by unspecific community standards, are banned entirely from Texas public schools. Books rated sexually relevant, were books with any representation of sexual conduct, would require written parental permission for students to access them. So, and then, here's the statement made by the plaintiff. With this historic decision, the court has moved decisively to ensure constitutionally protected speech of authors, booksellers, publishers, and readers, and prevent the state government from unlawfully complying speech on the part of the private citizen. This is a good day for bookstores, readers, and free expression. So that's the nutshell of that aspect of it. I'll get into a little bit of, a little bit of a punk rock aspect of it here in a minute. But yeah, I wanted to let Vanessa talk a little bit about it as well. So
Yeah, I was really, really excited to see this decision, because, as you mentioned, this is like the most conservative appeals court in the country.
yeah,
So,
I love
like,
how they point
it was
that out.
iffy on where they were going to go with it. It was really iffy. But, the law was basically saying what the law was trying to do was it was conscripting the vendors, the businesses, into saying, what, like, putting a value on what this book is, like, the sexual content, or whatever the criteria was, and that the vendor had to, and the vendor was legally responsible for that, right?
Yeah,
And then the state was trying to say, no, that's government speech, that, which is protected from First Amendment pushback, but it wasn't. It clearly isn't. The vendors aren't the government. It would probably be better if they were in some places, but yeah. So, like, this was a really good one. I'm really glad that this one came down, because that law was really just not even a very well veiled attempt at banning books without coming outright and pulling books off the shelf, right?
yeah. And if you all think that Governor Abbott's going to sit and take this decision, you are incorrect. They are taking it to the Supreme Court, and they want to hear from the Supreme Court. So they're going to push the appeal even further and try to get the Supreme Court involved. And the Supreme Court is going to have to rule the same way. There's
Well,
just no.
they're probably not even going to take it up. They're
Yeah,
probably not even going to take it up, because the courts, the appeals court, they were right on. Like,
yeah,
they're right. They left the parts of the law in that they did not feel like were wrong, which they are wrong. They are.
yes,
But but, like, these specific pieces, the appeals court was spot on,
yeah.
you know.
Jenny says, I have a hard goal of getting banned in Texas, and Vanessa says, same. I got sex and demons. Yes. Abbott, Cruz, DeSantis, they're all opposite of the spiritual nature of their surnames. Yeah. So, yeah, but, you know, just in case crazier things have happened in our world, there is something that we can all be assured of, and that is that when things like this happen, we as a community who wants to do something good for our community rises up, and that is the basis of the uh the next thing. NPR uncovered a secret shelf, they call it, of banned books that thrive in a Texas school. uh, these banned books, let me get to the article. Sorry. Oh, get me to the article. So the secret bookshelf began in late 2021 when then state rep Matt Krause sent public schools a list of 850 books he wanted banned from schools. Wow, 850 books. That's wow. Um, they might they might, he said, make students feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, and any other form of psychological distress because of their race or sex. That made this teacher who decided to start the secret shelf furious. The books that make you uncomfortable are the books that make you think, she told NPR. It isn't that what school is supposed to do? It's supposed to make you think. She swung into action, calling friends to support a bookshelf that would include all of the books Krauss wanted banned. Then she enlisted a student to put it together. I went through the list and found the ones that I thought were cool, and then she gave me her credit card and I bought them. And a lot of it was gay books. I remember that, one of the students said.
All the gay books. All the gay books.
The same student said that he came out as trans to his family while in high school. I wouldn't call them supportive, so I had to do a lot of sneaking around, he said quietly. Now 19, he's graduated and works as a host in a restaurant while deciding his next move. Having these books, having these stories out there meant a lot to me because I felt seen, he said. Especially meaningful, he added, during a fraught time when Texas lawmakers banned transition related care for teenagers. Because of the way the laws are going for trans people, especially, it could be assumed that my teacher is grooming kids, and that it would be terrible because that's not what she's doing at all. In the wake of the bill's block provisions, some of the freedom to read activists note that HB 900 still contains dangerously vague language about, and that was what we were just talking about, certain things were not taken care of from this ruling. Uh, Vague language about material prohibited in school and no clear guidelines about enforcement. I do believe that book banning is going to go away, the teacher says firmly. But for now, she adds, I intend for this library to just keep growing. We should see where it goes from here and present an epidemic. And will this become a present for an epidemic in our United States? That's the big question. And if you want to hear I just so everybody knows, all the articles that we're talking about here are already listed in the description. If you want to go, there's a nice 7-minute audio clip from that report on NPR in that article that I've put the link to. So it's right at the top. You can listen to the whole thing and listen to the passion of these people. But this is what happens in our society when you decide to do some wrong. The good rise up, and this is just one of those stories that I think had to be told in this context about this. And I'm glad to hear about it. And good on NPR for finding it and disseminating it. And I love that. So
Yes. I love it too. Makes me happy. Exactly, Anita. Good books are supposed to make you think, and and they might make you feel uncomfortable, but
yep.
either way they should push you farther. They should push your comfort levels out, right? They should stretch your mind. Like all the best books make you think, and they make you question, and they make you consider other views and stuff. And it's just like, why don't these people get that? I mean, we know why. We know why. It's bigotry, it's fear, it's power wanting to control. We know why. But there's always going to be resistance, rebellion. There's always going to be, this is the resistance.
Yeah,
Good on
absolutely.
them.
Yeah, that's a great way to kind of wrap that bow on that, and hopefully
Mm,
we'll get more on that. And if the Supreme Court takes this on, obviously we'll cover it and we'll give you the information there. Uh, they say
yes,
sometimes
John.
it should make you feel uncomfortable and even uncertain about your beliefs. Absolutely, yes. I think anything that helps you grow as a human is important, and I think questioning what you believe and who you are is part of that. So,
Yeah, because that's what brings you to what you actually believe.
yep,
Like the only way you can get to what you really believe is if you can question what you've always been told to believe. You know, that is literally the only way to figure out who you are, is to question who they told you you're supposed to be. You know? Okay, sorry. This might be a soapbox issue for me, y'all.
It's all good. It's all good. I love it. All right. We know what else we love here. We love the marketing tip. And CL Cannon has an awesome one. It's a bit detailed and involved, but I think it's worth it to hang in there, guys, and take a look and listen to it, and all of her suggestions are actually in the description as well right now, so you can go and check out everything that she's talking about here. And then we'll be back. We got a couple more stories. I think we're probably planning on an 80 or 90-minute show, so just be prepared. But uh, but thanks for hanging out with us. We really do appreciate it. And here is CL Cannon and her monthly marketing tip.
Guys, CL Cannon here from Fiction Atlas Press, bringing you another monthly marketing tip. So you know how they say don't judge a book by its cover, and how we've discussed at length here in the past how that rule absolutely does not apply to actual book marketing. I want to get into another facet of offering pretty books, and that is special editions. With the rise in popularity of direct sales via authors' websites and crowdfunding sites like Kickstarter, special edition books are in high demand. Readers don't just want pretty covers, they want an experience. So what does that mean? And how can you take your books to the next level for your superfans while also snagging new readers? I want to start off by saying that this way of marketing, it's not for everyone. If you are not a hands-on kind of person who is good at task management, then this may not be for you. Making a special edition is a labor of love. It requires a lot of back and forth with various companies, distributors, and artists. But the end product can be so worthwhile. There are tons of ways to make your book stand out to your superfans and collectors, and as an avid collector myself with over 2,000 print books, many of them which are special editions, I'm going to list some of my favorite book customizations that have me adding way too many pretty books to my cart. Number 1, edges. Be they sprayed, gilded, stenciled, or digitally printed, pretty edges are in and they are here to stay. Look how beautiful. I have a entire collection. You've probably seen them behind me before. I have all kinds of pretty books. Collectors are looking for something that looks good in their hands, of course, but they also want it to look really nice on their shelf and on social media, where everyone is sharing on their TikToks and on their Instagrams and Facebooks and with all of their friends. There are a ton of ways to accomplish custom edges, from printing on demand and sending those books off to an edge artist to spray. You can find a lot of those on Etsy. Going with a print run and a specialty printer who digitizes the edge art during the printing process. That would be like this one of Divine Rivals. Or you can DIY it by having your book formatted or formatting it yourself in a particular way that has a picture on the edges. You can see the picture is partly on the inside of this page. And when it comes together, it goes to the outside and you have a nice digital edge. This can be done with any print-on-demand service now. Number 2, redesigning or reimagining a cover. Nailing the perfect cover once is an amazing marketing feat. Doing it again can prove challenging, but when it comes to special editions, a new cover can entice readers to purchase even if they already have the standard version of the book. I mean, why did I purchase 3 copies of Gallant? Because I couldn't help myself. Because I have an addiction. How many copies of Lord of the Rings and Six of Crows do I have? I really don't feel comfortable disclosing that information, but it's a lot. Now that being said, a cover doesn't have to be a complete redesign. You can change minor aspects like the color or a font, or you can change the material in certain parts of the cover and do different little special things just for this one cover. There are also reversible dust jackets that can make a book look different without costing you a lot of money to produce. This is the original cover. Inside, we see we can turn this around. Some of these have the title on them, some of them don't, but you can turn them completely around and you have a whole new look for the book. If you decide to do a complete redesign for your special edition, I suggest trying out different cover styles. If your original cover used characters on the cover, then try going for a symbol cover or vice versa. Changing the style ensures that you're giving the reader something new, but it also can bring in new readers who happen to just like that certain style. Number 3, annotations. There is nothing I enjoy more than taking a deep dive into the brain of my favorite author. Having a special edition annotated with notes from the author in the margins explaining their thought process, making inside fandom jokes, and giving us a glimpse of what could have been and how a story evolved is absolutely intoxicating. It's a place that I can stay all day. And I know I'm not alone. Annotations build a connection between your reader and you. Here is one of my favorite annotated versions of Gravebriar by Casey Bond. Now, she hand annotated this one, but you can get this made in other places. But you are going to have to do a print run. I don't know of any print on demand that can do this. Also, my other favorite annotated version of a book is my Six of Crows set. These give little insights into my favorite characters, and it's one of the reasons that I bought this edition, even though I have so many already. And these lovely, lovely, and I mean lovely, detailed edges here. They're digitally printed, and they're designed by Rosie Thorns 88, who I love. We'll talk about her later. Number 4, bonus chapters and deleted scenes. Content is king, and giving your readers more of what they want, or an alternate version of the ending, or even an excerpt that didn't quite make it until the final version of the book, those are great ways to make your special edition stand out and make it a must-buy for readers. Don't forget to advertise and play up these little bonuses. Be sure that your readers know that this is the only place that they can get that content. Number 5, art tip-ins. Art tip-ins are just what they sound like. Artwork of your characters, or of quotes, or things that are important to your book that are bound into the book. Art plays a huge part in the special edition craze. Readers want to be able to visualize their favorite characters, see what they look like, see one of their favorite scenes from the book depicted by some sort of talented artist. And there are thousands, if not millions, of talented freelance artists out there with open commissions who can make those dreams a reality for you. Some of them even bring their own fan base who may not have ever heard of your book, but they can't wait to snatch it up once they realize that their favorite artist is featured inside. I can't tell you the number of times I bought something blindly just because Rosie Thorns 88 or Murwild or Charlie Bowater was confirmed to be involved in it. And I'm talking blind, like with no art preview yet. I've just put my credit card details into a campaign because these are artists that I trust who always produce amazing work. And this is where doing a little background research on your artists, aside from their portfolios, comes in handy. Who have they worked with before, and what kind of social reach do they have? Asking these important questions can make all the difference when it comes to choosing the perfect artist for your special edition. Let me show you some special artwork from Six of Crows. Some artwork from The Great Gatsby. And even this version of Gravebriar has some black and white photos in it. Number 6, vellum overlays. Vellum overlays, and I don't have any on handy today, I will flash them up on the screen. Vellum overlays are more of an add-on item when it comes to special editions. They're not bound into the book, but collectors and fans go rabid for them. These are usually pieces of art, usually character art, that are printed on thin layers of vellum, and they lay between the pages of the book. Making a good vellum insert means having quality artwork, so keep that in mind. There are several artists and even some author service providers who can print these for you, or there are some DIY methods to do this at home on your own printer. Number 7, foiling on the case, like so. This is on a paperback, but it also has the same effect. Empire of the Vampire also has it's a huge book with very pretty edges, but also has foiling on the case. That is lovely. Here's a great example of an indie doing this. This is Andy Peliquin's Child of the Night Guild. He's about to launch Queen of the Night Guild, I think, in just a couple of days as of the recording of this video. But his case laminate is foiled, and it is beautiful. So this can be done whether you're indie, whether you do a print run, small press. You can get foiling through print on demand and specialty printers. They're more elaborate, the foiling, the more you're going to want to go with a specialty printer. I don't think many print on demands do this much. I think they're mostly just on the spine. If you just want the text to pop on the front, or if you just want to foil up the spine, then printing on demand is going to be a good option for you. Here's another great example of foiling on the naked hardcover. This book does not have a dust jacket, but it is so intricate and beautiful, and also has some beautiful stenciled edges. Okay, let's talk about number 8, which is spot gloss. Spot gloss is when portions of the cover are matte, right here, and then certain bits of the cover that you'd like to highlight, like a character's face or a weapon or some other important design aspect, is glossy. This makes it pop off the cover in a beautiful, beautiful way. This is something you're not going to be able to do with most print-on-demand printers, so you're likely going to have to do a limited or an offset print run with a special printer that offers this feature. I'll have a list of printing resources in the description of this video to make this easy for you to find and easy to find the right printer for the job that you want done. Here's another example of spot gloss. Right here. She's the main character, so we're highlighting her. Number 9, ribbon bookmarks. Everyone loves bookmarks, unless they're monsters who dog your pages. And having a ribbon bookmark is just that. It's a little piece of luxury that bookworms have come to treasure. Andy's book does have a ribbon bookmark. You can't lose a ribbon bookmark because it's built into the book. You never have to go looking for it or place junk mail or old receipts between the pages of your new luxe edition. It's just there in a way that even most people aren't for you. These can be customized to fit the overall aesthetic of your book, match the cover color. There are some print-on-demand sites that will do this for you, so it's not a huge hassle to have to add this to your book. Okay, we're on to our last one: signing, numbering, personalizing, and creating scarcity. A popular, although easy to implement, special feature is signing or numbering your books. A signed book is always going to be worth more to a reader. It's about that relationship between you, the author, and the reader. You touched the book, or at least the tip-in page, and that builds excitement for the reader. Now, I mentioned tip-in pages because this is an easy way to sign hundreds of books without having to have them printed and shipped to your door before they go out to your reader. Having the tip-in sheets sent to you before the printing process allows you to sign large amounts of books without having to store them or having to go through damage claims between shipping back and forth. They usually come in 1 to 2 boxes depending on how many you're going to offer, and that's all the hassle you have. You sign them, you ship the sheets back, and they are bound into the book, and they can be sent directly to your customer. Another very cool thing that you can do to make a signed book even better for your special edition is to create scarcity. What that means is that you will only offer the book for a very short time period with a limited number of copies. You can even number the copies, which solidifies their value and the unicorn aspect of the special edition. You can also personalize each book with the reader's name. Did you know that you can use Ingram Spark to input a custom text for each book? You have a generic message or a generic graphic, and then they input the name for each one. This gives it a touch of personalization without a bunch of hassle. Okay, yes, this marketing tip was an opportunity for me to show all of my book pretties to the world. To all you authors who want to dip your toes into the special edition side of book publishing. As always, I welcome any questions you may have about today's topic or any book marketing or craft quandaries you can come up with. I'm always available at my email, info@fiction-atlas.com, and you can also check out my websites below or message me on social media. I hope you have an amazing month, and I'll see you next.
I low-key hate CL Cannon's marketing tips because like they're fab. Oh, I'm moving around. But they're so good. But then like ones like this one they're so cool, but oh my god, so overwhelming. So overwhelming. You're muted, by the way, just so you know.
Yes, so overwhelming. For sure.
Yes. But it looks so cool. I really want to do that the vellum overlay. That's really cool. I always liked when I was a kid, I always liked having, a hardback book with a vellum fly, the fly sheet that's like right before the title. But like the ones with the printed and you could just like put them on any page you want. It has the pretty pictures. Oh, that looks so cool. Sorry.
No, it's awesome. I love when people fan out about that stuff. It's kind of neat, and uh, that was a really well done one too. So I contemplated breaking it up into two parts, but I think
No, I
I
loved
think
it.
it's well worth it.
Yeah.
And actually, there's one that she had to take out, and that might sneak its way out onto the social web for everybody. So you
It'll
can
be a
check.
deleted scene.
Yep, absolutely. So a deleted tip. So all right. So that being said, we do have a couple more things to get through here tonight, and then we'll call it a show. But I wanted to mention this is more of like an editorial for me. It is news, but it is news that kind of doesn't really affect anybody all that tremendously. But you know, unless you're a big music person, unless you were really into um, this aspect of it. But for those who don't know, uh, media conglomerate Condé Nast is folding one of its longest running independent music zines in Pitchfork into the GQ juggernaut and laying off all those who don't fit the corporate scope of what the plan is. And then on top of that, with that happening, Amazon dropping all its support for indie zines that were giving writers periodicals to submit stories and editorials to really has the indie zine community reeling and wondering, has it finally met its match? Well, the reports of these deaths are greatly exaggerated. Online certain online certainly these sites have felt the pain, like BuzzFeed, Collider, Nerdist, and the likes of those who kind of thrived in the indie zine mentality. They've had to do some certain creative partnering or quite simply folded. But recently, dead print uh, Brent, Brent, but recently, dead print vlogs like Kerrang and Hell's Gate and Forever have been propping up in subtle spots on swag tables, not just at conventions like San Diego Comic Con and Gen Con and Dragon Con, where those are big deals, but also at award show tables in various boutiques and indie bookstores. So it's kind of getting vogue again to have the little magazine in your hand. Um, and what's been behind these success stories is the use of what gets lost in social media for me, and that's citizen journalism, local activism, and the care for things like for the things that we love and like that no one else would give the time of day to because it doesn't move the almighty dollar needle. That's what makes something like the end of Pitchfork so sad. Since 1996, Pitchfork had not only developed a rating system that was not only the standard bearer for its reading core, but it was embraced and utilized by the lexicon of the music industry. I mean, it was part of that lexicon, and its importance when describing an album, like getting a 9 out of 10 on Pitchfork, meant something to the artists who don't get to play on the Tonight Show or don't get to be on a main stage being viewed at major festivals across the world that are, on the side stages or there at 9 a.m. when the hardcore fans are there. You know, Along with that, Pitchfork was introducing a planet of voices to us music fanatics, not just the cream of the crop, chefs, white male quartets or trios, those indie bands, those neat little indie bands with their sweaters and their need to be authentic. But Pitchfork was incorporating jazz fusion, Israeli thrash metal, all female fronted prog rock bands. Groups like the Donnas and Junior Boys found a footing thanks to this scene. The fact that GQ and Condé Nast have brought Pitchfork, the Pitchfork brand, Condé Nast bought the Pitchfork brand in 2015, and for the most part did not fuck with it until now. Only sees because they only see the dollar bills of the advertisers mattering and talking about only the bands on the 15 of 18 pages that talk about bands now in these magazines that aren't just ads. that give billions of downloads. So they're just talking about the Taylor Swifts out there and the Ariana Grandes. And that's a sad mentality of what our society is slowly eroding to. We need sites like Film Threat, Bandcamp, and others of that ilk, and the zines that are most aggressive and highest call to action for us revolutionaries, so that we can get these voices that we might not work into the grand scheme of the mainstream. And you know what? That's fine, but it's not going to stop anyone from thinking for themselves. Time has proven that the indie zine time has proven that, and the Indie Zine has proven that. We've proven that today in this show, with the bookshelf aspect of it. So indie zines are not going to die. If anything, they're going to get more underground. They're going to get more progressive. They're going to get more active in this community base. And I think that's what the indie zine should be. And the indie mentality, I mentioned sites like Nerdist and BuzzFeed, who originally had that mentality, and then they got corporate, and it kind of bogged them down and overwhelmed them, and people started leaving them in droves. And so this is a big part of what um, our artist community needs and thrives on. It's sad to see Pitchfork go, but I have a feeling that somewhere down the line, the creators of Pitchfork have another idea brewing, and they're gonna pop up, and they're gonna pop up the way that they popped up here in 1996, which is underground, and they're gonna change the lexicon once again. And I think
I
that's
mean, yeah, zines have been around before the internet, right? They'll never not be around. Like, if you really want to get down to it, you look back at the revolution and all the pamphlets, the US Revolution. Those were zines. Come on now. Yeah. So that was cool. That was cool. I liked it. I liked it. I mean, I'm not like in that. That's not my area, generally
yeah.
speaking. But I
But
I
I
will
do think
always support
I do
indie.
think what it was cool about this is that it is coming back in vogue to have the actual physical copy in your hand, right? Like vinyl, and I think that's things will never die for people who are worried about will going to movie theaters die. You know, they may change, they may evolve, but really that experience you can't replace sitting there and enjoying a film in its the way it was meant to be seen. And I think that the home theater could replace that experience, and I think that's why the experience will thrive and foster. And I think that is ultimately what it's all about, is the experience. And like I said, I have a sneaky feeling the guys from Pitchfork aren't done yet. So, you know.
That is cool. Yeah.
All right, you
Right.
want to talk about some more good
What?
news for us indies?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, I'm not gonna get super elaborate and everything like that. We're just gonna go through this really quickly. But it's very interesting that 2023, the big five companies, you can see them on the screen. It's Penguin Random House, HarperCollins, Simon and Schuster, Hachette, and Macmillan. They lost another 3% of the market share this year, the same as last year, like 2022, between 2022 and 2023, they lost 3%. From 2023 to 2024, they lost 3% of the market share for hardcovers. And for paperbacks, for the first time, they divided out trade paper and mass market. So there's no comparison for 2022. But you can still see on trade paper how low their market share is. However, I will make a caveat, like something like 29 or 30% of the market share is what's it called? I can't remember, and it didn't get in my notes. Source ground, that's it. And they're an entrepreneurial sort of independent publisher, but they do everything from nonfiction, like self-help kind of books, to YA, to LGBTQ stuff, to kids books, to things that are of a more scientific nature, calendars, all kinds of stuff like that. And they've got in the trade paper category, they've got about 29 or 30%, but Penguin Random House owns 53% of that business. Now, my understanding and what they say is that that SourceGround completely is independent. Like they are not. Penguin Random House does not run the company at all, or they don't have any input in the company, but they're still a 53% shareholder. So, that could probably get lumped into PRH there on the trade paper. Yeah. And mass market is even lower than hardcover for the big five. And this is great news for indies, because certainly probably the remaining 15% of the market for hardcovers, for example, are probably actually indie publishers versus indie authors. But it's all mixed up together. We're all mixed together in a great big tent. So yeah, so that's pretty cool news, huh, Joe? What do you think? What do you
Yeah,
think?
you look at the trade paper aspect of it, right? We're
Mhm.
almost 50-50. That's fucking
Yes,
awesome.
yes. Well, I mean, you have to consider that 29% is that is I keep wanting to say Soundgarden, and that is not right. Soundgarden is not right.
JD's like,
um,
yes, Soundgarden.
but
Yeah,
yeah, but they're owned by PRH mostly. So but
mass
yeah,
market is
still.
the mass market is something that indies don't really pay attention to, because that's usually like the airports, the supermarkets. Those are the things that you can't get into right now as indies, which I also think, though, that's encouraging that 15% of it is not there with the big five. So somebody's breaking into that marketplace and that share, and that number I would assume will go. I mean, mass marketing is a really new relative category for tracking things for the
Yeah,
book scan.
yeah, they separated it out finally.
Yeah, so I
Because
think
it
that's
really skewed the
yeah,
numbers. It
yeah,
it really skewed the numbers, because when you're talking about like airports and grocery stores and things, you're talking about Stephen King and Nora Roberts and all that. So it really can skew the paperback numbers.
and this is just bestsellers too. This is not their average book that doesn't get on the New York Times bestseller list. This is books that have actually spent a time on a bestseller list like USA Today or New York Times, which we are seeing indies get on nowadays. So that also is very encouraging in this aspect of it. Um, the interesting thing here is, and this they'll never provide this, is there's no ebook percentage here, which is very
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, there's no way there's no way for them to track it, right? There's no way for them really to track it, because Amazon is so fluid with the bestsellers. Something is on the bestseller list for like, I don't know, 42 minutes, and then it's gone.
Yeah,
So like I get why they don't do ebooks, and
yeah,
it's also hard to track because all the bestsellers and everything are often tracked by ISBN number.
yeah,
There's no requirement for an ISBN for an ebook. So while they may be able to, Amazon may be able to track that on their site, which they'll never share those numbers, you wouldn't be able to track the same thing on, from Barnes and Noble and stuff. So I don't think there's an accurate way to really get these numbers for ebooks. There's no accurate and efficient way to get it. So I understand why there's no ebook numbers
yeah.
here.
I do too, but I do think that would favor indies a little bit more too in that aspect. But
Oh yeah.
but looking at this too, two things strike me very that are really the theme of this show, and that is one, CL Cannon was just talking about how hardcovers are vogue, and special editions. I don't know if those are going to count in this hardcover. I think it's just the initial hardcover print that they're tracking here. But the idea that hardcovers are back in play, right? Like vinyl, like physical zines, hardcovers are the thing that people are reading now. I mean, trade paperbacks would probably, if you had done this survey about, or done this about 10 years ago, I bet trade paperbacks would have dominated this category. But they're not. It's just not the thing anymore. So I think if we're looking at this from an indie perspective, it might be worth it to do a small hardcover run for yourselves. If you're looking at this and going, what can I sell at conventions? Could I make inroads with it? And I know that Hartness does a hardcover run for a few of his titles, and he usually
Yeah,
sells out. You know,
yeah. Yeah, and like you have to like sell them at the right places. You
yeah,
have to sell them at the conventions and things that are cater more to book people than something like Comic-Con,
yeah,
right? Comic-Con, you're probably, I mean, there's still book readers that go, but you're not going to do as well proportionally as you would at a science fiction fantasy fandom convention, for example, like Dragon Con or something like that. But yes, most of the authors that I know that I see on the Southeast Con circuit, the ones who have hardcovers, they sell them like they sell them well, So yeah, I mean, I don't have any hardcovers for my books yet, and I'm just like, oh, I should do that. I
yeah.
really should do that.
And the other thing that struck me that we've been talking about tonight is you look at Macmillan's numbers, and that I have a feeling there's a direct correlation with their labor issues, where they've laid off a shit ton of people at the end of 2022 and into 2023, and we're trying to operate kind of like a small independent press at the beginning of the year, and they've kind of now kind of hired some people back and brought some people in, but it I have a feeling that really hurt them, and it shows here, and and I also think that probably they lost a lot of authorship because of that too. So I think some of these authors probably moved on to Simon and Schuster or Penguin Random House. I don't know if that's the case. I don't read too deeply into who's repped by who anymore, or what's going on, because they all just kind of blend together at this point. But you know, I do think that that's interesting.
Yes, I mean they're called the Big Five for a reason because they're like a gang. But I do also something that I noted is that those of you who have been around the publishing industry for a little while now remember how the government blocked Penguin Random House from purchasing Simon and
Mm.
Schuster, and these numbers show exactly why, because you know. Penguin Random House, look at their hardcover and the increase in their market share from 2022 to 2023. They increased by 2%. And if they had combined with Simon and Schuster, they would have over 50% of the market,
Yeah, look at how
and
many
like
books
it
they
just
have.
underscores that the government was right to do that.
And look at how many books they have on the list of hardcovers versus the others too. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just they're so
Yeah.
far ahead of everybody in that
Yeah.
respect. And the mass market thing does the HarperCollins does not surprise me. I mean, that's what we all those are that impulse buy, right? They're the National
Mhm.
Enquirer, those little romance trade
Yeah.
books that are sitting there
And
on the
also
shelves.
keeping in mind, like a lot of this has to do with what the individual publishers, how many titles they're putting out in that.
Yeah,
Obviously, HarperCollins has decided that this is going to be their main,
yeah,
like one of their main focuses, right? So the fact that they have 212 bestsellers in mass market, whereas in hardcover they only have 54. Like, it's obvious that they are pushing, like they are putting a lot of effort into the mass market, and that's why they've got such a huge part of the share.
yeah. This is very fascinating. It's very interesting. I think if you look at it from an indie perspective, you can glean a lot of where you should be focusing your marketing a little bit as well,
Mhm.
and kind of seeing. And I'll have to talk. I'll have to talk to the guys at Drafted Digital slash Smashwords and see if mass market is something that they're trying to penetrate, because I would think they were the guys that could do it if anybody could really push it in there. Maybe I'll talk to Harkness when I see him at Jordan Con too
Yeah,
about it.
I think it would be challenging though, because also mass market, you have to kind of
You have
be
to have
able to get
inventory.
into those markets.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, you have to
I'm
have an
muted. Yeah,
inventory as well,
yeah, yeah, for sure.
which is not which most of us operate on print on demand. So, you know,
Hmm. Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
reason why we couldn't get into bookstores for so long, is because you have to have inventory that can be returnable. So,
yeah,
and it has to be able to be tracked. And so,
yeah.
but I would imagine somebody like John, who has what, 200 titles now, something like that,
Hmm.
he probably does have some back catalog inventory he could mass market if he wanted to.
Yeah.
But
We're talking about John Hartness from Falstaff
also,
Books, which is a very it's a small indie publisher here in this that is very in the southeast, like very involved in the writer community and con community.
Noedy now is Publisher of the Year, everybody, for 2023.
Yes. Nice. All
But
right.
so that's an interesting survey. That's certainly something that everybody should check out. I want to thank everybody for joining us, all the great comments and everything. That I think these were really important stories this month, and we will be back next month, right before Vanessa takes her long journey to Europe, and
Yes.
that's going to be exciting. And we'll look forward to bringing you some more great news out there and all of the wonderful things. And hopefully, of course, something will happen the week that we decide to do this. So just be prepared, everybody. Hopefully, it's not a doomsday or anything like that. But uh, that being said, Vanessa, you want to take us out?
Hey y'all. It's always time to go indie now.
Yay!